Hello and welcome to this edition of Talking Europe on France 24. Today, our guest is someone who acts as a bridge between the European institutions and its citizens. Christa Schweng is the president of the European Economic and Social Committee, or EESC. It is a body that brings together European employers, trade unionists and representatives of social, occupational, economic and cultural organizations. She came to office 1 year ago as the EU was in the midst of the health and economic crisis of Covid-19. And it launched a grand citizens' consultation, the Conference on the Future of Europe, something the EESC is supporting. Christa Schweng, thank you for being with us. Hello and welcome to the show.
Hello, pleased to be with you.
And my first question is about COVID. You arrived amidst this crisis. I'd like to know how you feel Europe fared in the face of the pandemic.
Well, I think Europe did quite well. When you look at the speed, how the vaccines have been developed and rolled out, it's incredible compared also to other countries and the rest of the world. So I think what we did really good and really great is to give to pay attention and money, of course, to the development of vaccines, and that we are now also giving vaccines to the world because no one will be safe from COVID-19 until the whole world is safe from COVID.
How about the work market? Because, of course, some jobs were destroyed in this crisis. I mean, can you assess the damage for us?
Very difficult to assess, and I think everybody was taken by surprise looking how quick the recovery went after the first wave of the pandemic. So during the last year, when everything was slowly opening up, and now also after the first vaccines have been given, so also during this year, there was really a quick relaunch. What we see all over Europe is not destruction of jobs, but the need for skilled workforce. So for the time being, this is one of our major problems, and this really may hamper growth.
You actually mean what we have now is a crisis of not enough workforce, qualified workforce, to fill the jobs right now in Europe because of what? A quick relaunch? I'm saying we are lacking skilled workforce. Is that what you're saying for this recovery, this economic recovery?
Exactly, yes.
To what extent?
I couldn't give you the figures right now. I think there are others better placed than me to give you that. But I can assure you that knowing it especially from my country, people and enterprises are desperately looking for certain jobs and don't find the qualified people.
So, of course, you speak to employers, you speak to trade unionists. The workplace has changed with this pandemic. There's been the development of remote work. There's also, to some extent, a lot of, I'd say, fixed jobs have been lost and some precarious jobs have been created. What are people telling you?
Well, what people are telling is that, of course, we are in the midst of a transformation, and we knew it. This transformation was already ongoing towards a green and digital economy, and now the pandemic has accelerated the whole process. And I think this is what we experiencing right now. We are not there yet. We are just in the middle of this transition.
When it comes to the green economy, as you were saying, is this pandemic, in a sense, in a way, given the circumstances, a bit of an opportunity, in a sense, to rebuild differently?
Of course, absolutely. Excuse me. Especially when you see the plans that have been launched by the European Commission, like the Recovery and Resilience Facility, and which gives incentive to member states not to only invest, but to invest really in digital and green transitions, then you see it's really linked to structural reforms, and that is a big opportunity.
Now, one thing which is also being discussed and is been, something very, very important, which is this minimum wage, the European minimum wage. Now, first, can you tell us where we stand right now on this question of the minimum wage in Europe?
For the time being, the trilogues have started. This means the European Parliament has taken its position, as well as the Council has taken its position. Now they are trying to combine and come to see where these positions match.
But when we take this phenomenon of the minimum wage, we do have Europe, which is very different when it comes to wages. We have richer, higher wage Western Europe, a lower wage Eastern Europe. What compromises are being looked at? How is this going to develop, do you think?
Well, one of the big advantages of this direct proposal is definitely that it seeks to involve those that are closest to the workplaces, so employers and workers, and it gives a boost to social dialogue. And social dialogue at the level of the enterprise, but also social dialogue, especially when we talk on a tripartite basis between governments, employers, and workers' representatives. And I think this is something that is not very well known in all the countries. It's not done everywhere, and so it's them who know best how the market evolves, how the productivity evolves, and putting their heads together and coming to a conclusion is something that can bring Europe a big path, can advance Europe.
Is there a political objective to, in a sense, lift these wages in the lower income countries in order to bridge the difference in competitivity between the richer countries and the ones that have lower income?
I think you always have to have a very close look to the productivity of a certain country, of a certain branch, and you have to look also, of course, towards the situation on the market, and you have to put these figures together. And that works, of course, depending on the sector you're working in, but it also whether you're exporting or not exporting. And it depends, of course, also to a large extent on the people who are dealing with that. So I cannot answer you the question whether this will help. But for me, what is important, and I stress it again, is that social partners are now encouraged, and member states are encouraged to take social partners on board when discussing about minimum wages. Don't forget there are member states like mine, for instance. We don't have legally fixed minimum wages. It's always the result of the negotiations between employers, representatives, and trade unions.
What I mean also is that if you take the example of your country, it's a good example, the FPÖ, the right, hard right-wing party, extreme right-wing party and anti-European is rather high in the polls. I mean, is there something important when it comes to, in a sense, stemming this feeling that jobs are being taken to low-wage countries, or is that not the point here?
No. To me, this is definitely not the point here. I think this rise that we see now again with FPÖ has to do with a growing number of people who are anti-vax. So I'm very concerned, I have to say, to see this melange, this mixture, on the one hand, of people who are rather esoteric and for whatever reason don't want to take the vaccines, but on the other hand, a party that puts exactly their emphasis on this point. Because for the time being, this is what you read about FPÖ, that they are going anti-vaccines.
But when it comes to the workplace, do you consider the vaccine to be the silver bullet to solve this problem and to get people back to work in offices?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, as an employer, you have the obligation to take care of the health and of the well-being of your people, of your employees. And if you have people at the workplace who refuse to get vaccinated and who don't respect all the other measures that are connected to prevent COVID, meaning hand disinfection, wearing masks, keeping distance, etc., you have a problem at the workplace. I mean, how do you take your responsibility? And this is something where I say there is a good reason, and we have introduced that in Austria, to have the so-called 3G rule. That means either you are tested, you are vaccinated, or you're recovered from COVID. And these are the three measures that you have to prove when you come to work.
So Emmanuel Macron will become the new president of Europe. France will take the presidency. What do you expect of this? We've had him have a long speech a few days ago. How do you feel about this new presidency?
Well, I think the French presidency is always a very good occasion to promote Europe, because I know that President Macron is very pro-European, and we are looking very much forward to the conclusions of this conference on the future of Europe. That was, by the way, one of his ideas, and he's one of the authors of that conference. And here we think that. The conference is an excellent opportunity to put civil society back in the driving seat. I think it's a good occasion to reconnect really Europe and the civil society, to include them much more in the process and the political thinking than it has been done before, and to see how we can build a stronger bond between Europe on the one hand and civil society on the other hand.
Well, that's all we have time for today. Thank you very much, Christa, for being with you and giving us all this important insight. Thank you, viewers, for watching, and you can watch this interview again on France 24 and France24.com.